It's not really a surprise that the guy who live streamed himself shooting people last week in Buffalo believed some racist bullshit. But that racism was dressed up in something called the Great Replacement Theory, which is as dangerous as it is preposterous. And it's very preposterous. It's the same theory these guys were stomping around about.
Jews will not replace us!
The Great Replacement Theory is a conspiracy theory, meaning everything I'm about to say is not true. Those who believe it claim there's a sprawling, coordinated effort to get people who aren't white to, you guessed it, replace white people. There's an old and pretty well-known history of white people believing this type of thing. But the phrase Great Replacement came from a 2011 French book that argued immigrants were coming to Europe to eventually extinguish the white race. Many white supremacists in the US had already worked each other up about the idea of white genocide when this theory came along. Pretty conveniently, it gave them a way to blame Jews for orchestrating their inevitable demise. Again, very not true. But this idea has been showing up in a bunch of mass killings. In 2018, the killer at the Tree of Life synagogue in Pittsburgh had posted that Jews were to blame for bringing non-white immigrants and refugees into the US. He killed 11 people. The guy who killed a person at a synagogue in California in 2019 posted something similar. At the mosque shootings in Christchurch, New Zealand, the killer's manifesto was called the Great Replacement. And at the 2019 shooting at a Walmart in El Paso, the shooter's manifesto also referenced the theory and claimed there was a, quote, Hispanic invasion. This extremely dangerous idea is catching on in American politics. A fact that at one point might have surprised you, but now is more like, yeah, that checks out. When former Congressman Steve King tweeted about how you can't restore civilization with somebody else's babies, that's replacement theory. When current Congressman Matt Gaetz talked about an attempted cultural genocide, he even used the word replace.
There is an attempted cultural genocide going on in America right now. The left wants us to be ashamed of America so that they can replace America.
And there it was, when the House's now third-ranking Republican was talking about immigration.
No good management has come from the Biden administration when it comes to the southern border. This has been an invasion.
The current favorite version of this theory among conservatives is that non-white immigrants are moving in and Democrats are pulling the strings. President Trump and his supporters have helped spread this by saying the 2020 election was swung by a horde of undocumented immigrants who somehow managed to vote illegally. Again, not true. But now this theory that seems like it would only be in the darkest corners of the internet is very much in the mainstream. A recent poll found that about 1 in 3 Americans believe a powerful group of people is conspiring to replace them with immigrants to win elections. And that has been reinforced by heavy air quotes here, the news.
I think it's pretty clear, they're not even hiding it, that the whole point of their immigration policy is to ensure political control, replace the population, get a different outcome.
These are future voters. They want to bring in as many as possible, change the voting rules and regulations, provide amnesty, and get these people voting.
Democrats who want to replace you, the American voters, with newly amnestied citizens.
One thing people who believe this point out is that by 2045, the number of white people in the US will be less than the number of non-white people. That's true, and is something people have been talking about for decades. But there's a big difference between being outnumbered and being replaced. And what most conservatives seem to want you to believe is that this completely natural shift in demographics is a long play plot against white people. That's exactly what you can watch for as we barrel towards midterms. Politicians and pundits finding sneaky ways to squeeze in the racism of the Great Replacement Theory, all the while assuring you they're not actually racist. But racism, explicit or not, always has consequences. Because what exactly did the 10 Americans who were killed shopping for groceries in Buffalo Saturday morning have to do with any of this? Nothing. Nothing at all.